shall we move on to fatherhood?
Yep. Yes.
I think we've got a natural lead in there anyway. So we are looking at essentially a situation where whether fathers get to have a meaningful role in their children's lives is essentially up to the woman he had that child with in the UK today. You know, if she leaves, we're talking about 92% of non-resident parents being fathers. Less than half of that 8%, less than half of the 92% are awarded any kind of staying contact with their children. And staying contact is like one overnight stay a month half of the time. 20% of cases only have day visits, no overnight stays. No contact, indirect contact like emails and letters, or supervised contact is ordered in 31% of cases.
Are you kidding me?
No. And that is like, the allegations of abuse are made in like a fraction of that. So there is absolutely no good reason why 31% of cases should have no contact, indirect or supervised contact.
And we also know that allegations of abuse have skyrocketed because the women that, or parents that claim abuse, get free legal aid, if I'm correct.
Exactly. That changed in 2012. So prior to 2012, legal aid was available for parents having disputes about their children in family courts. But as of 2012, only parents who allege abuse are entitled to legal aid. And as you say, the rates of allegations have skyrocketed, and also the allegations 50-50 men and women making them, but now far more women make them.
Interesting.
Whatever. Yeah. And, you know, those allegations can be made and upheld in family courts with basically no evidence at all.
Yeah.
Or anything counting as evidence. So 50-50 caring of children occurs in 3% of cases at best, 50-50 being, you know, the optimum kind of outcome for children statistically after separation. And regarding the kind of contact orders that I mentioned earlier, which, you know, are already kind of atrocious, in 2018, 17% of contact applications were for the enforcement of orders that had been breached, but only 0.2% of applications for enforcement orders were upheld. And so, you know, Suella Fernandez, she's now Suella Benjamin, I think, but she brought a backbench bill, or whatever they call them, to the House of Commons for a family justice bill, and she said that orders were essentially seen as not, not, what's the word? They didn't have to be followed, essentially. Optional. It's optional. You know, if you're a resident parent, you do what you want and no one's going to bat an eyelid, which is what happens.
Wow.
So it's a very sad, you know, and I do think that has a significant impact on the suicide rate. I also think that, you know, fathers' rights are children's rights. And I think that it's them, you know, that it's the children who are really important, and it's them that we as a society are really failing when we won't support their right to have meaningful access to fathers, their loving and capable fathers.
Do you think speaking about the state of the nation, did you know that they are trying to push through a new bill or new amendments to make it even easier to disrupt the contact between father and children, or one parent and the children, through allegations.
Yeah.
And that's shocking, absolutely shocking. There are quite a few groups that are trying to oppose that, but the feminist lobby in Parliament is just so strong. It's frightening.
Do
I know.
you think it's natural based on human evolution, or it's indictment of our times that you have to basically appeal to the argument that we're failing children in order to get more women involved? Because if you say that we're failing fathers, there's a lot of apathy. Like, do you think that's because of sexual dimorphism, or do you think it's because of this culture?
Well, I mean, historically, it was the situation that the parent who was most able to care for their child in terms of finances was awarded custody, and that was usually men.
Yeah.
And, the appeal was made that children needed their mothers, I think. So I don't know. I mean, I think, for me, the children just are the most important, aren't they?
They definitely are. I'm simply saying that you were arguing, that we have to do this because it's children that we're doing wrong, and I completely agree. I think you're absolutely right that children come before either women or men. But what I'm saying is, it seems to be that you have to sort of rephrase the argument like that.
I think it is politically expedient to focus on children rather than men. Yes.
Do you think that's because of the sexual dimorphism that's ingrained in us, or do you think it's this culture specifically?
I think it's because of the gender empathy gap, which has its roots in biology. We value women more because they're the limiting factor in reproduction, and men are more disposable because they can inseminate countless women, can't you? All by themselves. But where was I going?
Biological.
The situation at the moment is like in family courts. The views and wishes expressed by children are only taken into account when they accord with the views and opinions and the wants expressed by the mother. So there's an indictment of our modern society for you, I think.
I think it's... See, when you said, the child went with whoever had the most resources to look after them, and primarily that was the father, I think it's fair to say that, the society was essentially saying, if you have this income, then you have this responsibility. It wasn't about giving it to men so that men could have, more power and more happiness than women. It was about saying who deserves the responsibility, pragmatically. Whereas now it's about who wants it more. It's moved. Yeah. It's moved from being simply. It's like it went from being responsibility, which is a kind of healthy thing to endorse, to being more about selfish desires of the individual parent.
I've got the feeling that women are... God, that's going to sound misogynistic. It's not meant like that. But I feel like women are incredibly selfish, including mothers, because all this, like, they don't take the best interests of children into consideration. It's really just about them and power, and in many ways hurting the partner. And my feeling tells me that this approach is definitely not as prevalent amongst men. And I question, are men more compassionate? Is it possible that fathers are more compassionate and that fathers potentially care more about the emotional well-being of the children than mothers? I'm not sure about that. I'm just asking that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would probably be an accurate snapshot of our society today, but I wonder whether they're innate characteristics of men and women, or whether it's the fact that women have all these perverse incentives to leave their partners and, the kids. Like, if a woman has sole custody of the kids, then she gets more money from her ex-partner. And it's like, men just don't have the same opportunities to be so awful. And then, you submerge society in this kind of miasma of like misandry. And, I think I feel sorry for women, to be honest, in all of this, because I don't think they're given the information and the support to make the right choices, and I've lost count of the number, because I obviously know a lot of mums because I've got children, and, I've lost count of the number of times that separated mums have said to me, like, sometimes I wonder whether I should have left my partner. And they'll usually follow it up with like, and then he's a total dickhead or something like that. But I kind of think, was that first bit the true bit?
Well, yeah, I've never really heard a man who has a child say, I wonder if I should leave the wife, because the man knows that if he leaves the wife, he probably will leave the child as well. But I agree with you, Liz. I think that women are just as capable of compassion and empathy as men. I think they're just not being taught to use it or to value it. If you have two children and you raise one to be selfless, to be compassionate, to be responsible, and you raise the other to be selfish, to be self-involved, to only care about what benefits them, you're going to get two completely different people, even if they came from the same place.
Mm.
There's a bit of nature involved, but I think
there is. Unfortunately, we are gynocentric by nature, and we probably always will be. But just as you said earlier, Liz, we are not bound by our primal instincts. We're human beings. We have rational thought. We can rise above it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Shall we move on?